I'll have something to share with you that will be helpful to you with your renewals. I guess I didn't send you my last version of the PowerPoint. I customized it for Valentine's Day with a red and pink and hearts. I guess I must not say that one. I'll send it to you. But, so anyway, we'll send that one. Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to go over what I do with my renewals, and if you all have any ideas and things that you would like to share, feel free to do so. So we'll start with print. First, I would suggest as soon as renewals open, be ready to call them, so you have as much time to work your renewals as you can. As soon as the renewals open, I go ahead and print out the full media kit. I go ahead and work my renewals just like it's a new sell, a new project. I do everything for a renewal that I do as if I'm just opening the project to begin it, as if I'm active on the project. I print out the media kit. I find out what primes are available, both print and digital. I print out the index to advertisers so I can name drop who's in. If they start to say they're not going to advertise, I'll say, well, your competitors are still in, and that a lot of times will get them to reconsider and decide to stay in. I also, before I call them, I look to see what they've done in the past, to see if they've ever done direct mail, to see if they've ever done digital, to see if they've done something bigger, if they've done something smaller, to see where you can go with them. If it's a new company to you, if it's not a sell that you made before, if it's somebody else's renewal that you're renewing, research the company, find out what they do. Make sure that you know what they do so that you can maybe build on the index to advertisers, set more categories for them. Know who their competitors are so you can name drop companies that maybe are under other categories that would be a fit for them. So just know as much about the company as you can before you call them. And if they're on contract, make sure that the rates are correct, because not always does everything come out right. So before you send them a contract, make sure everything is set up right, all the details are correct. And then also, while you have them on the phone, talk to them about how they want to handle their artwork, so that you don't have to call them every single issue. If they know up front that they're going to run the same ad all 4 issues, go ahead and find that out, enter that on the contract. That will save you time and them time, and a lot of them will appreciate knowing that you're not going to call them 4 times a year for them just to say same thing, same thing, same thing. Some companies I have found, like with New York Fire Chiefs, they don't want to change their artwork, and they'd rather not hear from you, just know it's going to happen. Any questions about the print renewals? Is she trying to call in?
Thanks.
Oh.
So when you call for the first time for the renewal, do you send an email as well, or?
Yeah, good question. I'll call. If I don't get to talk to them, I'll leave a message, introduce myself, what I'm calling about. It's time to renew your contract or renew your order. I'll go ahead and send you an email with media kit should you like to upgrade. I'll also include the insertion order if you'd like to do the same thing you did last year. I'll shoot that over now. All my contact information will be on there. If you have any questions, changes, you'll be able to get back with me.
Great.
You send both the media kit and the contract?
Yes.
Good.
And I always am assumptive, like, so if you want to upgrade, if you want to include digital, if you want to do direct mail, I usually try to mention everything that's available to them, so they'll kind of spark them, and then they'll get the media kit and look at those other options. In case someone hasn't mentioned that there's direct mail or digital, so they'll know those are available.
Do you list the primes that are available as well then in that email?
Oh, yeah, I may mention it on the phone,
Okay.
especially if they do a full page and they aren't doing a prime. I'll mention what primes are available, and I'll definitely mention it in my email.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about print right now? All right. Heidi, you ready to click? All right, NailerNet. If it's something you've sold and it's like a 12-month contract, keep in touch with that advertiser during the contract. That way you can encourage them to change their artwork. I found that the more often an advertiser changes the artwork, the higher their clicks are going to be. So that's going to help you renew them when their contract's up. Also, if you've been in touch with them periodically, it just makes it easier to renew it than if you just wait at the end of 12 months and pop in all of a sudden, here I am, let's just do this again. Again, encourage them to change their artwork. From the time I sell a digital ad, I tell them that from the very beginning. I really encourage you to change your artwork, once a month, once every other month. If somebody goes to the website or the newsletter and they see the same thing over and over and they clicked on it once, they're probably not going to click on it again because they see what you already put out there for them to see. So change your artwork. I approach the NailerNet renewals the same way I do the print. I print out the full media kit. I look to see what spots are available. I look to see what they've done in the past. I pull the stats of how the newsletter's done, how their positions have done, how the other positions have done. I don't always share those stats, especially if they're not strong. If they should happen to ask, of course, I share them with them. But if they're weak, I don't mention it. But again, if they do ask and they're weak and they never change their artwork in the whole contract, I mention that this is something I encourage you to do and continue to encourage you to do. And a lot of people will say, yeah, you did mention that. No, I didn't do that. So yeah, this time I'm going to do that. So that does help when you sell them initially. If you've encouraged them to change artwork when you go back to renew it, if they didn't do what you suggested, then really they kind of take that back on themselves and not so much on the result of their advertising. And before you call them, check out the website, check out the newsletter, make sure you're familiar with what you're selling and how it works, and that you're familiar where the positions are that are available. So you could pitch, why this is a great spot or why this is a better spot than you already have and why this would be advantageous to you to move to this van or to this rectangle or whatever is available. That's about it. Just pretty much be prepared, know what you have to offer and sell.
When it comes to the renewals for the mailer net, do you use a system that, for example, someone does a campaign, 12-month campaign on a website, how often you are in contact with them to renew the artwork? And I'm asking that because when I started with the company as an internet specialist, I tried to create a system using my Outlook that I would contact them once a quarter, just to encourage them to change their artwork.
I don't have a system in place. I guess most of the 12-month contracts I sell, I'm active on those projects, so I just see the premium sheets and think about them, or I'm already contacting them for print or something else, so I'm in touch with them and just happen to bring it up. But that would be a good idea to have a system in place.
So does CRM allow us to set a reminder so that that particular advertiser that's doing a digital position, it would pop up as someone to call that day? If you say, okay, I'm going to set this reminder for myself every other month or every 3 months, looking out. Is there a way to systematically set it up? I don't know if you can do more work you have, the harder it is to keep up with this, right?
I think you can do reoccurring. I know you can do
the next meeting.
Yeah, you can do the next meeting.
Right. So I love the encouraging them to update their artwork. So can we find a system to create using CRM that reminds us to follow up every 3 months on a digital order? Is anybody doing that right now?
The closest thing, at least that I've used, has been that little pop-up reminder thing, but that thing gets really annoying. The one that all of a sudden you're in another window and then it just goes in front of everything.
Exactly.
So if there was some sort of resource if there's some sort of resource where it was a specific section of CRM that was created that we just know to check, I don't know, but I just know the reminder report.
I just do an Outlook for a recurring.
Yeah,
you can do every month or every 2 months or whatever recurring in Outlook.
Yes.
So that if unlike so if CRM pops up and you follow and you forget to set it again, Outlook will continually remind you whatever time frame you have every month, every 2 months until you stop that reminder.
Is this for each individual client, or are you just saying like a general check all my online orders?
I did for individual clients, and I also create a signature, not a signature, but a text that would go on my Outlook reminder. So what would happen is I'll get that reminder, right? Give the customer a call and follow up with an email if they didn't pick up the phone. That's the way I found around CRM, because CRM you can do the recurring one. And another thing with the CRM is, because CRM I was using that function, the function that we talked about, for follow-ups, calling companies, trying to contact, like, okay, this is a perfect fit, I need to follow up with them. You would get mixed up with the other ones, and then it gets lost,
So the other thing that you can do is your CRM reminder list. You know how when you have your status window open, how there's that like little calendar icon? You can click that and put whatever date you want, and then so every day, if you're doing that consistently, then you can check that reminder list on a daily basis and just say, okay, these are all the people I have scheduled to call today. So I mean, as long as you make it part of your habit to actually check that every day, that'll do it for you, and it's nice because it shows that list. You don't have to go digging for the client either. So if you have an email reminder or an Outlook reminder, you're going to have to go find that client, right? With this, you actually assign it to the particular lead. So you can just double click on that lead from your CRM reminder list, and it takes you straight to it automatically.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody was using a system where they did the same time every day for nailing it. It might have been Eric, actually. I don't know if he's on yet.
He's
but
joining right now.
So it was like over noon or something where he would never schedule a follow-up call so that they knew like the noon follow-ups are those. But yeah, it's still to that point. I've seen that reminder list. It just shows you might have 40 Ashra leads you wanted to call that day and one Ashra newsletter artwork follow-up. So how to differentiate that.
So there's 3 automated solutions and then 1 manual solution. One, you have this narrow territory of projects. You kind of know what's going on, Debbie. So it's not necessarily an automated thing. You just know what's going on. If you have a lot of projects and they're all over the place and you haven't had a lot of digital, you need an automated way to do this. So there's 3. One is that pop-up thing that drives everybody crazy and you don't keep up with it. The other is Outlook. And if I just put a recurring Outlook appointment on there, that it'll pop up every 3 months, that particular customer I need to call and check. But if you got a lot of those, you're going to have a lot of those pop-ups, right? Yeah. And the third is the one that we built way back when with that pop-up, which is one that Dave talked about, which is if I set a date for follow-up, every morning when I come in, I print that out or I pull it up and go, these 10 customers, I set a follow-up on this day. And the way, David, I think the way you described it is I can click on something and it goes right to that customer in my CRM. So we should come up with, I think we've got all this training. We just don't use some of the stuff that helps people that have a lot of these that they try to keep up with. So we should come up with, something that'll work that you can consistently do, because most of you, it doesn't sound like, who's doing what Debbie does here with the telling a customer that you should change your artwork regularly to generate interest and keep traffic flowing? Who does that?
I know Eric does.
3? Okay. So if you're selling digital, you might want to put this in, but then how do you do the follow-up, right? That's the other thing, because that seems like a lot of work. And probably, I think Debbie's most profound thing is that you got to be prepared for what might come up if there's not some traffic there. Right? That's probably people's biggest fear is I'm calling them, they don't like the traffic, and now they're canceling on them. Yeah. Right? So maybe you guys can talk through some of how to deal with that. Get over those humps, because you're right. When it comes to renewal time, your likelihood of renewing at 12 months is a whole lot higher when you do what this is happening here than if you don't.
Yeah. Well, and also having multiple touch points with them, being more consultative through the year,
yeah.
As opposed to just calling and say, hey, you got 15 clicks, you talk to them in a year. It's like if you talk to them at least 3-4 times during the year, you've developed a relationship, and more, even if the numbers are, less than desirable, I think your odds are, like you said.
Well,
you told me to do
also
it.
it's setting the expectations for them.
Right.
Branding, you got to talk about the impressions and the value behind that.
How do you manage, because you have basically you follow up with your clients on a quarterly basis, don't you, for NailerNet?
I try to call them at least quarterly. If not, I'll call them at the 6-month point and at the the 9-month point. If I do miss them on the first quarter, but I'll try to at least get them quarterly. Generally, if I'm working on a project, I'll just once or twice a month, I'll kind of just scan through my existing orders, not only to make sure everything's right in online reports, because positions can become oversold, or things could happen that you're not noticing, banners not showing up right, but then it might be just an opportunity to just give them a quick call to touch base, to say, hey, how's everything going, anything new about your company, is there a trade show coming up, new products, and then developing that line of conversation to change up the artwork.
Right. And how do you remind yourself to do those calls? That's what we were talking about.
The best way I can find to do it is do it on Outlook. Set up a quarterly reminder for yourself every time you book the order, or the order's live.
Yeah, so what I do in Outlook, and like for ad copy, not only for renewals but also like ad copy collection, is you can pull the actual email into the Outlook reminder, and so in the email, in the subject, I'll put the pub name or whatever, and also the order name number, so that as opposed to going back and forth from Outlook to that list of reminders. So I've got the order number. If I get them on the phone, or if they call back or whatever, or then I just copy and paste the order number. I've got everything that I need right there. And then you can do, so like somebody was saying, well, what if you have 10 of them? You can just create one reminder for that project, have all your different email in there, and just follow, and it makes it somewhat, and even Telio was saying, if you have sort of a generic template email, on the 15th, it pops up, you can call through or email through and just copy and paste and say, hey, did you, hope you're doing well, happy Valentine's Day, do you want to update your artwork or whatever.
The other, this is kind of a manual solution, but I know the NailInIt renewal module can be sorted by when it went live and when it went effective. So you can trace out 12 months, and then you can see, okay, what's expiring in 12 months, and then you can track back on those reminders. So like Eric said, he does a 6-month. All right, we're at the halfway point. I know I've talked to Eric about this, about setting expectations with them, especially that's when you can rebuild the value of those 3 clicks where, like on AAJ, we have this, where those 3 clicks were attorneys who specifically went there for case referrals and saw your service enough within your state to click on you. That's worth a lot more than just a Google AdWord click. So
yeah, and then also just reminding them it's about the impressions and not the clicks, because you might talk about branding and say, hey, do you guys want to brand yourselves? Do you want to be a thought leader? Have a top of mind presence. And then if you don't call them back for a year, they're only thinking clicks. They've completely forgot about the whole point of why they put the ad up in the first place.
And if you can sort it that way, then if you were set, let's just say the second Thursday of every month as your NailInIt or NailInIt follow-up date, then you could sort that module and then follow up with all of those people that are that you should be following up for in a quarterly update, right? If you just set your date for a set date every single month.
So like for today, you could do expiring in April, and everyone on that list would be, they're 3 months out from expiration, so that would be that. Or you could expire in October and then do 6 months from that. So
I have a question. Would it be able for IT to create a dashboard report?
There probably is one.
probably exists.
So can we use it?
I don't know.
You're talking about for following up with customers?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
quarterly.
I know Salesforce does it, and so I think CRM is a little bit lower form of Salesforce. But if you have a dashboard report where basically it just refreshes every day. So once you come to your desk, you pull up your dashboard report, and you have just individuals that you need to call. So
I would like that.
Yeah, I mean, IT might be able to, if you set your own reminders in CRM, they might be able to write a report that you can pull that.
If we're already using online reports, might as well go to that same place for quarterly
Exactly.
checkup. Make it all in one thing.
Yeah. So that's
it's more of a long-term wish list, though, that we can put in. I like it. But
Yeah. Right.
Well, Vera put it in. They like it.
Something one of my advertisers just had me do on a 3-month newsletter contract was, because they wanted to change their artwork and they said they always just forget to get it done, was she had me put the artwork deadline for each issue on her contract, so it was a deadline just like a print deadline. And she said that would help her, because then she'd give it to her marketing people just like she does a print deadline to get the digital artwork changed out the same. So that might help.
And I think there is a pretty significant difference between Debbie's follow-up with NailInIt renewals, because most of your projects have a print component. So you're talking, if it's ASHRA, you're already talking to them about the magazine, calling them about that, and so you're having the discussion about the NailInIt versus Eric, or maybe Mark, who has a much bigger just NailInIt portfolio as opposed to projects that are NailInIt and print. So managing those, are pretty different.
Debbie, I'm at a loss.
Another benefit from that is cross-selling too. Sometimes you might talk to them at a certain point in the year and they say, oh, we're starting to target this industry, and you might have something else you could sell them into at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, Debbie. I'm sure a lot of times when you're calling for those quarterly updates, that's the time you'd say, we just had an opportunity on the Career Pulse newsletter that I saw you had a job offering when I was looking over your website and saw here. Would you like to consider that as well? So you're just expanding pretty much every 3 months as you go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments about NailInIt right now? Okay. And then this, now it changes. We just got an email yesterday or the day before about the new automated email that's going to go out. So this may not apply, but this is what I typically sent. After I would leave a voicemail for someone about getting the new artwork, it depends. If they're a contract advertiser and they're already on contract, and like a lot of my ASHRA advertisers, they really work better with an email than a phone call. I would just send this email that we're working on the summer issue of HR Calls. Would you like to pick up artwork from the spring or submit something new? I'd go ahead and send them the artwork I'm referencing, as well as send them the electronic submission form, as well as the deadline. So here's what you need, tell me what you're going to give me, and then move on. But now that we have the automatic system, we had that before, and I don't know, that was always kind of funky for me. I just like to send out my own, and then I had touch with them, and they had touch base with me, and it worked out well. And then the two, if you wanted to work your renewals a little ahead of when the system's automatically going to send it out, then you have the ability to do that. So that was just my simple email that I would send out, but send them what they need to make their decision. And a lot of times they respond real quick to that. It's either, yeah, run the same ad, this is perfect, and off you go.
With the automated email that's going to start going out, will you still send this, or will that confuse your customers, do you think?
Well, I don't know, because the last time I had just sent these out, and the next day the automatic ones went out, and so my clients that had already responded to them were confused.
Yeah.
I'll be confused. And so I probably won't send mine out, so I'll just see how it goes.
Was there a way to just manually say, I don't want this automated email going to my phone? Like, for example, like for me, I've been running into it with like customer.
Mail-in-net postings, right? You click off the mail-in-net postings email?
Yeah. Or just when any of your ads go orange, they get the automated email now just saying your order is orange. And
when it's orange or when it goes green?
Both.
It's
Which is
both.
a problem.
Yeah, they're getting it when they've given me artwork before. They're like, hey, don't you have everything you need?
Now it's doing it both, orange and
Yeah, it's just confusing my clients. That's my own experience.
But if you click off the Mailernet posting email in the blue A, will that stop that email? Or is that just the posting email?
I don't know. We're all looking like deer in the
I
headlights.
thought the automated email.
That's possible, because when a preliminary proof comes out, the email address that's in the blue A, that's where the proof will go if you submit it. So that's very interesting. If you don't, that would be something for us to kind of play around with. If you took that out, would they get the automated emails? Because the system wouldn't know
Would it make
where
more
to
sense if
go.
it went to the artwork contact for the ad copy one, though? Because they can often be different persons. Like the blue A is sales@app.org, when Bob is the guy that handles artwork, and Mary is the signing authority.
where that email goes. And I was told from production, I think from, anyway, that there was the email address that was on the bottom.
You and me can test it after this.
Yeah, that's what I said. We should definitely test it.
We'll test it and get back to you.
Sounds good.
Can we have a delay? At least what I was noticing, I know they're trying to fix the email, but can we have a delay between the time that the order turns orange and then green? Because I'll have one, because it takes a while to turn to turn green, and then the email goes out, and they're like, I already gave you the artwork. And it's just, yeah.
Well, so this is getting a little off topic, but similar to what you're saying. So like you get the order, let's say it's a renewal. So you get the order, it turns orange. You say, hey, here's the artwork from the last issue. Is this good to go? Then they say yes. So you turn it green, and then they get another email with the proof. And then sometimes it causes confusion, like I was mentioning earlier, like with customer supplied outserts. They're like, what artwork are you talking about? Like, you're not printing it. Like, I'm sending it to you. So for the most part, it's not a bad thing, because the client's saying, yeah, absolutely. We already talked about this. This is confirmed. Sometimes it causes confusion. But my question to, I can't remember who it was, but if we're going to go back to that system where basically when orders would turn orange and the CPCs or PCP or whatever, media coordinator, automatically turned it orange. I'm just like, forgive me, I'm not a drug addict. So the media coordinator would turn the order green automatically, and then it would send that automated email. So from what I understand, this new automated email is very similar to that format, right? And they get approved and say, hey, is this correct? So in other words, is it we're still verifying the artwork with the client, right? But they are still getting this automated email saying, hey, here's your artwork that you just approved. So at one level, do we just turn it so that they get the artwork and they can approve it? Or can we stop the automated email that they just approved?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
I think Laura's working on the wording of it. I think when it was sending the proof, that was great, but it was the wording that was really off. It would say, it was a little confusing. It confused me also. It kind of let them know that they could upload something else, almost saying that it wasn't relayed yet.
Correct.
So she's working on the wording of that, and I wasn't aware that they were doing an automated email
It
for
just came
renewals.
Yesterday. Yeah, it just came out
Okay.
yesterday, the email. Yeah.
Huh.
So that's yet to be determined. This is what I did do previously, so we'll see how that goes.
How do you handle personal renewals versus company? When
I do the same.
Not like a different relationship because you may have never spoken to the person before?
Well, I guess if it's a company renewal, that's a good question. I do call and introduce myself, especially like I took over a bunch of company renewals for New York Fire Chiefs this past year, and they had been with George Baldwin for quite some time. So I called and introduced myself and told them I would be their new contact, and then, you know, had more of a discussion with them. Some of those required a different conversation. And so had that and, you know, had longer conversations, and then those were handled a little bit differently. But as far as, you know, preparing, you know, having a media kit, researching the company. If it's a new company I've never had, I would research them, but have all my ducks in a row as far as positions and stats and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, if it's somebody I've never worked with, and especially if they've been with Naylor for a number of years and been with a certain rep, then I definitely, you know, so-and-so's no longer with our company or they moved into another position, so I'll be your new contact.
So, Debbie, like just from working with you, I know that you upgrade a lot of your renewals, or at least your renewal numbers end up upgrading. So I'm wondering, with this email, it doesn't look like there's a lot of, you know, there's nothing in there about upgrading necessarily. How are you encouraging your?
Well, this one's already on a premium position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they want.
How are you getting them? How are you getting them in the newsletter?
Yeah, they're already like maxed out on about everything.
Okay.
So if it was someone that didn't have a premium, then I would put in there, you know, by the way, you know, page 8 or whatever's available, or the digital toolbar. We do have direct mail pieces. I would put, you know, another paragraph in there about what other premiums are available.
Can you send us
You just mentioned it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would also have mentioned it on my voicemail if it's somebody that's not already on contract, that I'm just kind of touching base to let them know where we are.
And do you try to upgrade from like half page to full page, or is it more about prime position?
If they're not on contract, I mean, if they're already signed for the year and pretty much said what they want to do based on our conversation, then I probably wouldn't try to upgrade them to a full page. Maybe if they're half page and we have editorial that's appropriate for them, then I would talk to them about, hey, let's guarantee your ad next to this feature. If they are going one issue at a time, but they're doing a full page, I would definitely pitch on what times are available. I always try to upgrade them in some way. Either add the digital, add the direct mail, take a premium, add some categories. I always try to find something they don't have that they need.
Do you send if it's a digital pub, do you send the link in there? So if you're trying to upgrade them to page 8 or whatever, you send it to them?
I always send a link to the pub. And if it's a specific position I'm trying or a digital, I reference, you know, look at this page number, or it's the, you know, whatever ad, you know, that look at that. That's the position I'm talking about.
It sounds like you're really personalizing each one of your renewal emails and really working your renewals. Do you feel like that renewal email that is going to be generated would kind of stunt you in that and stunt, you know, not really allow you to upgrade as much as you did before?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, if there's an automated email.
Oh, the automated
Yeah,
one.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it concerns me because I do customize each of my emails. I mean, I have a standard form, but depending on what I'm trying to sell them or depending on our conversation, I do customize them. And it does take a little more time, but I think it's helpful.
Well,
so it is concerning.
I don't doesn't the automated email only go out after a client is signed for an insertion order?
I thought only when I wanted to turn green.
I thought green only.
Right. So I don't think the automated emails, or nothing is automated that goes out that is
We're talking about
on
BOMA?
anything that's a pre-sale. The sale hasn't been made, right?
So the only,
I mean, BOMA, you talking
the new, the BOMA system,
So that's the only one.
That's the only one.
That was something different, which I'm not completely familiar with it, but I would think any of the automated emails are pre-signed insertion order, right? Okay.
Pre-signed
So there was, yes,
Oh,
the last
no.
issue of ASHRA, 027, I had sent all my renewals out. Some of the contracts had already been turned orange, and some of them weren't turned orange. So when I turned the ones that weren't orange, that automatic email went out after I'd already sent my email. So then my clients were like, why am I getting this now?
So you're saying you already had them on the contract,
But
and you would want the opportunity to send out your own email, even though they're already signed, you would want the opportunity to send out an email, but the automatic email is going out also?
Right.
Which is because the contract is already signed, and it's trying to generate a confirmation of that copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's doing what I did. Yeah.
Right. So in those scenarios, right, I'm wondering if our auto emails have anything that mention the opportunity to increase your ad buy.
No.
The one
contract.
that got sent out yesterday to us does not mention upgrading.
Yeah, Laura's working on it, maybe.
It should be.
Right. So okay, that's where where we're looking to try to figure out what we can do to steer the customer back to the sales rep about additional opportunities that may exist.
Not to jump on that too much, but would there be in the grand scheme, if they're still working on it, I think it almost would be a good idea to where Debbie had her own template she could put in, and the system auto sends that. So Debbie's style is much different from Laurent's, is much different from Doug Smith. So it might be good to add that little, for Debbie, her artwork, this is what works for her and her clients. They've gotten used to it, and what, you know, Doug Smith might have a personal relationship with someone. We're adding a joke about a fishing trip he told you about last week might help. I don't know, but
But it's
kind of a custom per rep.
But it's not custom even by rep, but it's custom by rep by client. So it's, you know, it's now, you know,
And
the
project.
concern, and by project, the concern for Debbie is that she's specifying she's being very specific in these emails about not only the renewal that they have, but also the opportunity maybe of what they can upgrade to, that email is, the automated email is not going to have. And the automated email would never have a specific, like, add an additional category, or, you know, would never get that specific. It would just be able to say, contact Debbie for additional opportunities, which is not going to be as personal or as, you know, I noticed that you have this new product, do you want to add that in your artwork, and then add an additional category, you know, on your ad. So that would be something that she would add in her email that is not going to go in the automated.
And they'll think that she's just offering it to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this. So Debbie, so it sounds like you're customizing all these emails, and I think that, I mean, obviously it's working, right? Whatever you're doing is working really well.
Yeah.
So how much, can I ask you, how much of your time, because you have a good number of renewals, and especially because I think we give you a bunch more because you're so good at it, right? But how much of your time proportionally are you spending on renewals versus new sales, and how is the customizing the emails, how does that impact your overall sales day / week?
Yeah.
But how are you managing that time? I guess is a better question.
Well, when I jump in and do my renewals, I do all of my renewals on that project at one time. So that what I'm writing is, you know, I can copy and paste and do that fairly quickly. I think that it pays off for the time that I'm dedicating to doing the renewals. So, and because I hit them all at once, not just hit or miss, I can tell you the time-wise. Maybe it takes me 30 minutes more to do 10 Ashford renewals, customize them. But
So you're not taking a ton of time on it. You're just and would you say that because you know which prime is available, you're kind of copying and pasting that into all? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not.
Because I'm always pitching that. If it's, you know, the same, the best prime, that's digital each time.
How long do you wait from the time you send out this email, for instance, with the IO, to follow up with them if they don't return it within, what's the amount of time that
I
you?
usually wait about 3 days. So maybe if I call them on Thursday, I might call them back on Monday or Tuesday. And I don't call them right the next day or two in case they're out of the office or have something going on. But I don't wait a long time either because I want to get them done, move on to the next stuff, and don't let it drag too long.
And would you re-email them the second time too if you left a second voicemail?
The second time I'd leave a voicemail and reference the date that I sent them the information.
Okay.
And then if I call a third time, I would forward the email again. I'll say, you know, I'm going to send this to you again, so it'll be current in your inbox. You know, please address it and get back to me soon.
I have a quick question. From a content perspective, are there primes that do better and that you'd like to see more of, these upgrades and prime positions magazines or directories on offer that you'd like to see more of?
Well, content is always so nice to have. Call and tell somebody, hey, we're doing a feature on student loans, so this would be ideal for you, and we can place your ad right next to the student loan.
Like opposite a certain president's message or something that was always in there.
Those are appealing usually because they're just closer to the front of the magazine. I do have people though, like sometimes the table of contents is closer than the president's message, and recently I had people say, oh, people flip past the table of contents because the magazine's only 40 pages long. They don't need to look at the table of contents. They're going to be able to flip through it and see what they need. They prefer being across from the president's message that has more content, something more important to them. That's been my experience with that. But
to add on that, I know we get a lot of requests for the trial books that might be relevant across the other books, but as many far forward guaranteed page numbered pages we can do, because a lot of times guaranteeing first quarter is great, but telling a client page 8, page 9, page 10. On AMG, we went up to like page 15 doing it, and it's helped because, and even though first quarter might only be the first 12, when they know a page number, it sets that expectation, and they kind of get excited about
So
that.
they don't even care if it's in the story, or they would like be at the beginning of the story?
I think, yeah, just knowing that, our standard primes, IFC, IBC, op, TOC, op, presidents, but I would say step further, be like page 4, page 5, page 7, and 9.
Right-hand read.
Yeah, and
especially
then
when you're getting into bigger magazines like
exactly. And just when someone knows, like some people are willing to pay more just knowing, okay, page 12 is where I'm at, and they're willing to pay that premium. So we get them added a lot. Most of our trial books have them already programmed, but I could see that across a lot of that, like the Astros, as we start to fill every single prime and editorials full.
Are we doing anything like opposite feature content or something like that, or opposite first feature?
Both opposite and within we do on AVA, Asher, we've done that, but it's more about when we find out content versus when production's happening. So a lot of times it's within first feature. That's a pretty safe thing to say, but if the feature happened to be one page, within is kind of a tricky thing to do, and you're hoping he's a fractional and you can stretch it. But
And you mentioned write can't read, which is hard to do unless it's within a story. We kind of put the content of write can't read. But maybe if we had like an infographic, like a left can't read and a right can't read.
Right hand would be really good. Yeah, that'd be really good. And I agree with Rachel. Doug and our team have been trying to use the extra categories to target, to kind of match it up with the content and kind of target specific pool of advertisers that for who this issue would be relevant from a content point of view. So.
okay, I think my next slide was just questions. Oh, did you have questions?
Well, one question.
Yeah.
I think what I heard earlier was that seeing one of the biggest objections you have on NeighborNet renewals is traffic. Is that accurate or no?
Yep.
accurate.
Our stats, I had an advertiser recently, he sent me stats that he gets from another publication. He's like, don't you all have this information? I'm like, no, we don't.
So how many of you, or it's kind of a blanket question, but is it easy to get to our stats, or do you go to the stats?
Well,
I find
it
it
depends on.
Google Analytics is preferred. The online reports is a good idea with impressions and clicks, but I've seen some of the ones sent what some agencies are asking for, and Google Analytics has a lot of it. It's tough to interpret Google Analytics. You have to find like the link. It's not by ad. It's by how many times was, paycheck dot blank / HTTP clicked on in a time period. It'll give that to you. So
we have a good amount of training around that. I think one of the hurdles is that not like, so for Google Analytics, it's not like set up in an orderly way a lot of the time, because it's based on what the client has named the website. It's not based, like, we don't have it in there as like under a project code. And so like at first glance, sometimes it's hard to find that it's in there. And so people say, oh, it's not there, when it really isn't. We have the information, but sometimes for the sales rep, it takes a long time.
Yeah, and like, I think it's Napa or something, it's under there in their old URL, which was like pavement something, and now it's under Napa, but when you put it napa.com or whatever it is, it won't come up on Google Analytics. You have to go to their old one that was.
So maybe for the reps.
Well, wouldn't that need to be something that the project support specialist should update when they change those things? Like, did we have the website while it was the old domain and then it went to the new one?
That I don't know. This is just what I know from marketing. Like, I just knew my projects that were like that.
Because I know sometimes we don't always set up the analytics for the client. Sometimes they have it set up and they give us access. Sometimes we have to set it up for them. But if there's a change, I think, that'd be something that we'd want to make sure we're keeping aligned with.
Yeah, so it seems like we should have some dialogue around what things you need when it comes to the analytics to renew the customer, and then what things you need to say to steer the conversation in a direction to renew and or upgrade the account. So what's your barriers to this? And that's probably a good thing to talk about. Let's figure out what it is so that between Debbie and Eric and whoever else is working this can help you solve that so you renew more confidently with your digital.
Well, how do you answer those kinds of questions, Debbie? If we don't really have all those analytics and stuff like that, how are you managing that now? Because you're obviously having something to
It's challenging. Luckily, most of the projects I'm on, the impressions are good. The clicks are never good. They know this is the only way to get in front of the audience, fortunately, so they hang in there. That's basically it. They just know that this is the way they've got to be there to get in front of the people they get in front of.
the audience, about the association.
Yeah, it's the association. This is where they have to be.
And selling it on branding, not clicks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and also those clicks mean a heck of a lot more than other clicks, probably.
The more and more of them are doing, landing pages where they're expecting forms to be filled out, starting getting leads, and I never pitch lead generation or response. And, and we have that conversation, but they still want to go down that route and hope to get them, and they're not getting them, but they, fortunately, most of them still have renewed. But that's a tough one.
We do have a couple people for Nina and APCO that want lead generation. That's all they'll do. And so Sean had talked to them about setting up, and VPI is a good example of this. If you want to use it, when you click on their ad, it goes straight to a website saying free demo available. Just type in your name and organization and hit send. And so that's how they do it outside of the realm. But obviously we don't capture that, but that's been a workaround. We do it on sponsored content with ABA. So just a thought that you guys can, be the consultant in that realm.
Well, that's what she's saying, is that that's not.
Yeah, well, like my sponsored content on ABA did that,
Yeah.
and people won't fill out the form. And I know myself, when I follow somewhere and they want me to fill out something to get something, I'm like,
I would take a VPI's got, we talked to Patrick Botts at VPI, me and Sean did at the show, and he was getting 400 submissions a month, and it was like a lot of info. So I don't know what template he's using, or his product is just the greatest thing since sliced bread, and a demo is worth millions, I don't know. But I would use that as an example maybe. But yeah, if they have to fill out, a doctoral thesis before they get it, someone's just going to close it and be done. So.
Right, most of mine was just your name and your email address, and but also they gave so much information before you even had to click that, and that was one thing we told them, was like, don't give so much before they have to give you something, and we did cut back on the information provided, but I don't know if that really helped with people filling out their information.
Okay.
Do you guys look in the mailing reports and offer that to your advertisers? Because you can do a comparison like over the last 6 months of how the overall newsletter did, and they can show that more eyes are on it or less eyes versus clicks open. I mean, there's a ton of, where it's being open across the country. There's a lot of different things within MailerNet that you can't come to the advertiser, which they may be interested in. It's not specific to their ad, but if people are looking at the whole newsletter or flash or whatever it is, they can see that it is growing. So that may be something to think about.
Did you get that information?
Yeah,
It's on the little, you can see it's on the little information page or whatever.
They even have
That's access.
Yeah.
So,
Is it easily accessible for everybody? You have to look at it. Okay, good.
It's all marketing reports. Type it in, then mailing report.
Good. Do you see it on digital editions?
No.
No,
I think it's better when you type in a specific edition for the digital edition because it pulls everything. And when you use
You can actually, for the mailing reports, for when they e-blast out the digital edition, you
they're
can
not always.
One of them is, one of the reports, the mailing report is going to show you the email that went out saying, here's your digital edition, how much that was open.
Right.
And when you want to see how many impressions stats after it was open, that's the separate report through online.
That's the best
online report. So you do have to look at both. One is how many, because a lot of people open the email and go, oh, I already got my print magazine, no thanks, don't need to read the digital. And if you're quoting a sponsorship, you don't want to say 4,000 people opened it when really 1,000 of those actually read the digital edition. So you got to look at both.
There's also certain associations that don't send it out to all the members. It goes like the SHRM organization.
Correct, and they forward it, so there's a couple of those nuances where it
And
shows.
you pull it up, you can
Yeah.
see the views too. So it opposed to like 88, may say 5,000 to 6,000. If you open up the views, it's 40,000 people that actually saw the magazine pages.
Yeah.
So it really helps
Yeah.
if you do it the specific one. Yeah, it really helps. So, and that way you can add them up over the months and do the averages. I just did it yesterday for someone. I just do the clicks, and it'd be more substantial as opposed to 5,000 or whatever it is. Because you can see all the pages that were viewed. So if you can say the average of 40,000 per issue, they love it.
Right.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
Anybody ever,
You'll,
have you ever used that, Laurent, as intelligence, or anybody use what you see in the digital edition as a way to upgrade or sell more on print renewal? Because you see this particular story has the most click-throughs, or this, you know what I mean?
what
I don't know
I'll
if you can see, is there intelligence in it that allows you to upgrade and sell more?
I'll use that for the standard just digital options that we have for the sponsorship, for the skyscraper, for the navigation, because if 40,000 people have flipped through it, or 40,000 pages have been viewed, well, that means the skyscraper was there and the navigation tool. So you can say that, maybe not the sponsorship, as opposed to just 5,000 people opening it, right? So you can see all of those page views. And so someone's like, listen, that's great. I want it. And so, and if it's sold out, even better. So then you can get past the clicks, like Eric was saying, it's branding, and it's a constant, and you need to change it every issue.
Kind of pitch
Right.
stuff out.
And that's the way you can navigate.
I think what John's saying is, are you using that information to either upgrade to the digital or reinforce the value of the print?
Yeah.
Right.
You can upgrade to those two locations.
Yeah, Rachel was talking about what do you find content-wise.
Right.
There's content, some information in there related to content, meaning this particular president's message had a much higher click-through rate.
Only on the
There was a
microsite.
link there somewhere.
Only on Heidi's microsite can I do that really, because it's so specific from a
Yeah.
category standpoint. Usually with a magazine, I don't say this article out. I guess I
Does
could.
it tell you?
And we
tell you.
limited the sponsored content to the top categories, the categories that get the most traffic. So we did that based on the content, what was driving the most traffic based on that content. So, but it's for the digital, it's harder to do. What we should be doing is we should be saying, for these newsletters, and we've talked about it, it's just a laborious process to say, these are the top articles that have been clicked on for this newsletter or for this digital edition. These are the top articles. This is the content that people are being, they're driving to. And then focusing on selling around that content, it's just
Yeah, it's a
harder
lot
to
easier. In a lot of other market groups, there's a lot more online buyers guides. You can look at where the
Yeah.
most clicked things, but
Yeah.
in this market group, it's a little bit more difficult because there aren't so many.
And Rachel, a question for you. When you're putting in the content on a newsletter, is there an opportunity to select the category that doesn't necessarily show? But I could see like ag banking articles can be titled anything and be different. Is there a way when you put in the content that we could, get a query for that result? I don't really know. Or is it just no? When you're putting in the content for a newsletter, let's say you put in an article on exploration and production for oil and gas. Is there a way to specify that category of what the editorial's on, or no?
like tag it.
Like tag it, yeah.
Those can't change. We set those templates up, and then we add headlines.
Would there be like a hit? I guess it would be. It doesn't need to be shown at all, but
Yeah.
that way we can see. That way we do a data query of saying all of our articles were clicked on. Here's all of them. Sort by category. 77,000 people are interested in exploration, production, and oil and gas.
Well, I guess,
And to John's point, then we could sell
but
around
you're,
it.
can you think there's a possibility to do a keyword search on the
Yeah.
headline? Just the headlines? No, just to find out what the topic is, because I think what John alluded to, and I think what we're all kind of talking about is if there's a bunch of different articles, right? Some are going to be related to one vertical or one product or whatever. And if we could search for by category and determine which ones are getting read more or less, then we could sell around that information.
I think that's only relevant on the microsite.
Right now it is.
Yeah, the other thing, because it's old information. But when we have it, but it's already out. So
Yeah.
Right. That's what
I like the idea of the traffic by position, not necessarily category. Look, the digital edition had 70% of the page views were this position, you should upgrade to opposite president's. I think that's where you're going.
It was. I was just trying to think, will the EMAG, will the digital edition traffic and data information allow you to know some more things about it so that you could actually sell better in your print? Because you can see traffic, what's happening, of what people are doing on the digital edition. You know if somebody's reading it and not on the digital edition, they're probably doing something similar.
Yeah.
But this, this happens to be the most read article. You know that, or this is the feature, this president's message, or the index does the index. I don't know what it is, but there might be some intelligence you glean from the digital edition that would help you sell better on the print, because it's happening in the digital.
The digital edition reports that we get tell you what the top article was that was read, and so if or what had the most page views.
Yeah.
So we currently get that report.
Do certain types of ads, and I know that's been so long, so I'm just first time I've been in sales in years. It's pretty sad, isn't it? All right, so to upgrading a digital edition ad with, is it still called Flash? Yeah. Or is it called something else? Like an ad that has some fluidity to it.
Ad jolt.
What's it called?
Jolt.
An ad jolt.
But it has Flash.
They're getting rid of Flash.
All right.
Yeah, I thought HTML5 was taken.
So,
Yeah.
That's an upgradable option, right? Yes. How much does that get sold? Does anybody sell that ever?
$250.
We sell a couple in ABA. I've maybe seen 7.
I've processed their
Yeah, you sold one in APCO. Barb has one.
Why don't we sell more of them? I'm just curious.
I will say trying to be positive, there's a lot of difficulty with getting them done correctly, and they almost often cause too much issue and clients pull out.
And I think there's only
Yeah, $250.
So it's better to sell it like on a microsite or a website.
We've been doing.
Not even news.
We've been placing more. We place more videos in than we do ad jolts, just because it's a very simple process, like digital inserts, and that's just dump a video. But
so video is probably the best.
Yeah.
But is that even hard to get the customer to have that and put that up?
No. Maybe we added one in, like,
because we have a lot of
we
examples
built it in and we gave one away like once a year, and everybody got a chance to see it. Maybe it would, it would be easier, because it's just something that you're talking about so many different things. I guess I could talk about
those digital inserts.
If you give one away once a year to somebody,
To the highest
and so eventually someone sees it, they're like, hey, listen, what was that? I want to know what it is.
Sure.
And it's $250. Maybe
Or send that out as an example. So, for example, Freddie Mac was asking for what other options would you recommend? So I sent him the link to, I don't know if it was I think it was yours, or no, Tracy's, the digital insert with video embedded. So like once you have an example of it, just keep referring back to that so you can. So yeah, but like newsletters, I don't they recommend not to do Flash anymore.
Video you can link to the newsletter?
Not enough.
You can newsletter, no, but
You can put a plate in.
Is actual like digital inserts into the digital edition that wasn't in the print magazine.
Yeah.
So it still goes towards the print book to help get that book over target.
And that's when that traffic report would come in really handy, because you can say, look, you should do a digital insert on top of this article that should be read the most, and we know it's right after the president's message, which gets this many views, blah, 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 blah.
Does it tell you how many times your video is viewed? Does it tell you how many times the video is viewed?
Yeah.
Yeah, ABA has a lot of videos.
She just renewed it.
Awesome.
Yeah. They give us a raw video file. Some you can send a link and then we can download it.
The other thing I found with the digital inserts for both SHRM and for APCO and ABA is that a lot of the companies are saying they only want to do digital now. And so with those options, it certainly helps to have that offering to give them something that they want.
Yeah.
I believe most.
And it's minimal
expense, yeah, they cost a good amount. But
okay, Douglas.
No, they're worth it.
I'll just put my ears back on.
Put your headband back on.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, anybody else have any questions for me?
Actually, I have one quick question. What is your secret to RCDs? Because I have seen you take some very, very, very difficult situations, and next thing I know, you guys are best friends, and they're renewing for years. So how do you? I've always wondered myself when I assign RTDs, like, how do you explain that you're the new contact? How do you answer if they say, what happened to him? What happened to the old rep? If they like them or if they didn't. I just want to hear that because I've always wondered, and somehow you've made magic out of it. So I'd like to.
I don't know about magic. I guess I'm just always polite and professional, and I never give them explanations. Just no longer with our company. Her moved into a different position. I think it's just being polite and professional and clear and straightforward and consistent.
Well, the RTD though, I thought an RTD was somebody couldn't get it in and they got reassigned to somebody else.
Sure, and
the person might still be here, right?
Sometimes, but also sometimes it could be it was a company renewal that didn't renew that both reps have left. So I guess for both questions, I think I have two.
And I guess I have gotten some renewal turn downs, and sometimes they had conflicts with the rep that had been trying to renew them for whatever reason, and sometimes you have to get an earful of what the problem was and why they were upset, and a lot of times it is just listening.
That's exactly what
and saying, I'm sorry that you experienced that. I've been with Naylor for 16 years, and I haven't experienced that problem, and I don't feel that we'll have that problem, and I'd love the opportunity to work with you and get you back on track and get things straightened out, and boom, 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 and let's see if we can, how it can go.
Do you ever find that they haven't been contacted, or I think a phone call goes a long way. Do you find reps sending emails and getting just shut down email, and your personal conversation is what makes that?
I notice sometimes when I call, like a rep will call them when the book first opens for renewals, and then they haven't been called again since the beginning. Or maybe they have reached out with an email and left it there. I do see that sometimes.
Is that the most, who does renewal turndowns? Who's had renewal turndowns?
Erica, Matt.
So, Matt, 1, 2, who all? Do you get renewal turndowns?
We all do, yeah.
What's the most common reason why, if you get to the customer, why they didn't renew with the other rep?
Mine was that the rep did not get in contact with them. There was one phone call, and that was it. And he told me that he would have done it in print, and I told him in digital because we had already missed the print deadline.
Well, what's the most common reason? Is that it?
I've been sold on response. You get they say, oh, the guy said we're going to get such and such, the moon. And you're like, well, this should have been told you in the first place, and they don't want to come in at that point, no matter what.
They usually say no, you can't overcome that one?
Well, direct mail. And then ROI on the digital version, digital inserts, we can track it that way if you want to do it. We have 40,000 views on the last issue. And then they're like, really? And then you can open the dialogue. But you have to have something for them if it's response. But that's probably number one for everybody on almost anything. So that's what you have to go to.
Do you think there's a
I ask them about their marketing mix.
Do you think there's a disconnect between being inactive and having renewals on the project versus actively calling it and working it and then being able to renew and upgrade?
I don't know, not really. I guess it's because sometimes they've known Norbert, right? Because Norbert's been in for years. So this guy's like, hey, LeRon, I work with Norbert on this. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, I'm not calling about Texas. I'm calling about and I say that because they know Norbert 5 years.
So you don't think it's like a not being up with the industry thing?
It depends on the rep sometimes. Because then, sometimes it's just, really it's relationships, right? So you sell on relationships, and people buy from you because, the association, and because they like you. So if they like Norbert, they're going to buy from Norbert forever, right? If he calls, he can just leave one voicemail or send an email. It's like, and then it's good, right? So, and then if it's a newer rep, then maybe they may not care. They may not be as cognizant of, hey, listen, you need to really stay in contact and introduce yourself. But if you've been in for a while, you realize that it doesn't matter what the industry is. If it's asphalt, if it's banking, insurance, doesn't matter. You need to call them, introduce yourself, and work in. Well, we get paid commission. Like, it's not, so if you're not working it, then you'll get them in on RTDs.
Yeah.
So you'll learn.
Do you feel overall informed enough when you're inactive on a renewal project? Do you feel like you have all the information that you need?
Or know the primes they should upgrade to, or the editorial?
Well, you can check the purple eye for previous primes, and usually they'll kind of stay within the same lane. You can offer an upgrade to one size larger, or you can, you can look. But I guess a quick sell sheet would be good, not like a long but a quick spell sheet if I'm out of the T or not.
Usually
That'd
the
be
project
sometimes-
leader will
Yeah.
send it out at renewals
That
and
would-
say, hey, renewal team, this
Right.
is what we have hot.
Yeah, and
I just
also when
got a
Alyssa
message this morning.
when Alyssa clicks off on the book with renewal, she sends to everybody who has an active renewal. But now that I'm thinking about it, it might be a good idea for the book leaders who are sending team updates, especially like for the oil and gas. You've been doing a great job of that, Matt, or like anyone, there's not many inactive on ASHRA, but I think the book leaders should send their updates back through all the inactive reps too, because stuff changes in every industry, and sometimes we have a new article and someone on the inactive team, I'd be lying if I said, we remember every time, but I think it'd be a better idea when we're sending out book leading updates to include everyone on your project that's leading to that success, inactive and active.
Yeah. I could see though, if a rep is not active on a project and they only have 1 or 2 renewals, depending on their time, what else they have on their plate, and if they haven't done a lot of work to get prepared to do that renewal, they might decide, oh, it's easier to let that one slide and let me put my time and effort into my new sales or my other projects. That might happen sometimes. Some I do on my own personal renewals when the company's not getting back to me or the person's not responding to me and I know I'm at my renewal deadline, I will call them and, of course, introduce them. Debbie, I've been trying to call you and get back with you. I've been reaching out to you for, however long. I'm at my deadline, and if you don't get this back to me today, another nailer rep is going to be reaching out to you because I haven't gotten you taken care of in a timely fashion. And I really would like to continue working with you, and I hope you want to continue working with me. If you will call me, email me, reply, I would greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Within an hour, I will get a call, I'll get an email, it will come back. But, you finally have to get to that point where you're like, I've let you down, and you're getting taken away from me, and I know that I've done everything I can. It's just they aren't getting off, they aren't following through, and they haven't told me no, they just haven't made me a priority. And so to tell them where we are, then they finally come through. So that's how I say
We're human beings, man. People.
Question about
And another thing, the renewals is one thing that you said, like the first thing that she does is what? Renewal open, priority, address your renewals, right? And I can say that in my short period as a project manager, when I first came in, I made a point to contact the whole team. I let them know about the renewals, to go after it right when the book opens. And I had more than a couple instances, luckily with none of the sales reps here in this room, where I informed the sales rep twice, like you need to enter extensions. First of all, you have to work your renewals, which I see in your CRM that you have not. Secondly, you have to enter your extensions, otherwise they're going to be reassigned. And I marked on my calendar, okay, I informed this rep twice. And the third time I didn't inform him. I reassigned the renewals. And then you see emails and people coming into your room, right? Like complaining it. That no, we can do. It's like it's still. I understand that complaining it. Sorry, everybody. I understand everybody, and they all have the same excuse. Like, oh, we're so busy. No, the SQL emails. You don't need to pay attention. I deleted them. You know how many emails I received? I'm like, yeah, I received the same emails you received, but not only yours. I received mail from all the sales reps. I mean, they all sound like they're not legitimate. They're excuses. The reality is you have to set your priorities, and renewals, they are priorities. And then go back to getting to it first and that personal touch. That's why, to be quite honest, the automated email, I don't like it. I really don't like the automated email because we know in our personal lives, nobody here likes automated emails.
I don't like it either.
No, we all delete it. So when someone said, oh, the renewal is going to be automated, I don't think it's a good thing. People will delete it. If more and more we have to move towards the consulting, personal relationships with people. And another thing I want to mention that I think is important is the industry is moving with social media and all those things, targeting, advertising. It's more and more predominant, right? When they can target it very well. All these platforms, everything that is happening with Facebook advertising, and now what they're calling a term in the industry is influencer marketing, right? What they use with influencers and Instagram and all these social medias. Everything they have is great, but they don't have what we have and have always had, which is the association. So it keeps going back. It's always going back to the association. And I think we can and will continue to do a better job with metrics and getting numbers and be able to to work with the association to get that information and give to the advertisers. But the reality is it goes back to the power of the association. I think this is it has to be top of mind, and we have to be fluent enough on the phone to communicate that to our advertisers, because there's a lot of noise in the marketplace, especially with social media advertising, Facebook advertising, which I think is a great thing. But we still have something that is very, 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 very powerful that nobody else does. Nobody else has, which is the association.
Eric was trying to.
Eric, go ahead. I'm sorry. My rant is not.
No worries. I have a question because it's kind of like something that just recently happened with one of our projects. We had a renewal come in before the prime deadline. You know, the rep was like, hey, you know, you're going to miss the deadline. You're going to miss the deadline. Renew it. And they said, okay, you know, we'll take the spot. Then we go all the way through the sales cycle, and then the rep's trying to get the artwork at the last minute. The client's like, oh, I want to cancel this. We used to have something on the IO that basically said, you know, you cannot cancel. I have a prime deadline. Are we still doing that, or is there any protection for us? You know, when they've been sitting in the position for the whole sales cycle, and then they decide at the last second they don't want to do it?
I don't think our terminology on the IO specifies that, as long as we haven't missed it.
It used to say there's no cancellation of prime positions, but I don't think it's on there anymore.
I'm not sure that legally you can charge somebody for something.
Yeah, if it didn't run. I know with newsletters, Eric, we've done situations where we say, you know, pay the end of the quarter, and then, you know, but.
You lose 25%, at least you can upgrade somebody without losing that.
I think we'll take that offline. I'll reread the bottom, but I think I just read that for that NAFA one. I don't remember seeing anything about it.
So print prime?
Yeah, print prime.
Print prime directory.
Let me know what you find out.
Is the frustrating part for you, Eric, that it was your client that canceled, or that it was then at the last minute that you had a prime?
Yeah, it's just we told that all the primes were sold out on the pub, so we've been telling other people, no, you can't have a prime, you can't have a prime because it's sold out. And I know we used to have, if you ask Heather Grayling, she'll remember it because I've talked to her about this in the past. It was probably 3 years ago, though, when we had it on there saying, you know, you cannot cancel a prime position. I'm not sure if we ever got in trouble with that and had to remove it due to legal reasons or anything like that, but it just seems bad that we can allow them to renew it at the deadline, then we can't sell it to anyone else, but then they still have the opportunity to back out of it at the very end of the sales cycle, like right the day we need artwork, so we can't even really turn around and sell it at this point.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think the wording, as I remember on the IO, is basically if it's only if we print the ad they're liable. If we can't cancel it, but I mean I think all the terminology was very clear that it's like if there's no service being exchanged, we can't charge for anything.
Yeah.
But I definitely share the same frustration. So I mean, as a team here in our team, I mean, we could set artwork deadlines for primes moving forward to where specifically for primes, you got 3 weeks less time on artwork. If you can't make that deadline, I'm going to open it up to the floor. If we sell behind you, then you guys are SOL. So, because I agree, an orange order is it's a reservation. So maybe we just as a team establish, I can have a list to modify the template that goes out with the email, and we do 3 weeks earlier so that Eric, you know, worst case scenario, that would be the exact time I'm assigning RPDs, past advertisers, exhibitors, or maybe we bring on Yates for outserts, and then I can just throw that in there like IBC ad copy is, and then Matt pitch it, Eric pitch it. So
have we ever had like an association or us send out an e-blast that says, oh, you know, we recently had a cancellation of this position, you know, does anyone want it at the last second? Because with this particular book, I'm pretty sure someone would jump on it. It's just I don't know if we have enough time to make any calls to word out to everybody.
Yeah, Sabine and me have been working on specific e-blast campaigns specific to ad sizes because we felt too often, and it was really Sabine's idea, I'm speaking for you, but too often our emails are like, hey, it's open. That's a good reason to respond. Hey, it's closed. Great reason to respond. And we wanted to change it to every spot is gone except for this. We're looking for one company. Who's it going to be? Very short and simple because that's what your sales emails do. Matt, Mark, that's what's selling banners every 0 phone call, 5 a day. So we're trying to change it. So Eric, I want to connect to you right after. I just saw that email this morning about the TTL one. So we have a template ready. We can get drafted out. And
that was CAOC. It actually just took us under target too. So.
So time to go back over.
So as opposed to a last chance email, e-blast, it's much more specific to what it is that's available. And
it is this spot is available. Would you be interested in it? And then if we get multiple responses, and one goes to whoever's working it, and then Matt Yates can follow up with the guys who said yes, all 10 of them, and then I'm sorry it's sold, but how about an outsert?
What? It was my calculation when you give it to me.
That would be. If your calls and sales, actually your sales are good.
You're going to have to be extra nice to everybody in the room. That's all I have to say. Okay, so we'll take care of you. I'll get it done.
Here's one other message I leave, an email I leave after I've contacted someone for a few times. I will also say, I apologize for my persistence, but we are at our deadline, and I hate for you to miss out. I really need to get your insertion order back. Please respond, and I'll also in my email, again, start out, I apologize for my persistence, and so often the reply, thank you for your persistence, I appreciate that, and then it will come back. So.
And one thing I've heard you say, Debbie, every time I ask for a round robin on emails, on renewals, is you always say the line is, I haven't gotten a definite no yet, and I really like that, because I think a lot of times it's like, no, they're not getting back to me. Until they tell you absolutely no, they're not off the hook with Debbie. So I think that's important to know that if you haven't gotten that no, it's, at this point, you just haven't gotten in touch with them, and that's not a no, that's a maybe still. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.